Students, today we are going to be learning about severe weather. So we're going back to our previous topic in science. We've talked about the water cycle and what causes certain types of weather and how weather is different than climate, but today we're really going to be focusing on weather that is out of the ordinary and weather that can cause serious damage to property and can really cause a lot of problems in people's lives. Here we have a really cool interesting picture of a lightning strike and the types of damage that can cause people. So different types of severe weather events cause different types of damage, and not all of the different types of severe weather occur in all areas of the world. So for example, if you live in a landlocked area such as us, the severe weather that takes place here will be a lot different than the severe weather that takes place, say, to someone who lives near the ocean. So here we are in Nebraska. We live right close to the border between us and Iowa. So let's go ahead and study the Midwest. What kinds of severe weather do we have here? Well, in the Midwest, we have tornadoes. Tornadoes have winds that can reach 500 kilometers per hour. These damaging winds cause severe damage to buildings and can lift heavy objects off the ground. Tornadoes are common in the Midwest region of the United States. Now, when I say Midwest, I'm talking about the middle toward the west. Now, Tornado Alley is more like Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. We do get tornadoes occasionally in Nebraska, but not very often. Now, speaking of Oklahoma, not only is it right here in what's called Tornado Alley, but also in Oklahoma, they have something called dust storms. Dust storms cover the landscape in a thick layer of dirt. This layer of dirt can destroy crops. Now, if you don't know what this word crops means the plants that farmers grow to produce food for people. So things like corn are grown in Nebraska. Toward the south, they might grow things that are better suited to drier climates, such as wheat. Now, dust storms occur in the Midwest and Southwest regions of the United States where there is little rain. Now, where we live, we have quite a bit of rain, so we don't really have to worry too much about dust storms. But it is another type of severe weather. Another type of severe weather that occurs in states that are along the ocean are hurricanes. Now, hurricanes can cause a couple of different types of damage. A storm surge is a coastal flood during a hurricane. The flooding often destroys homes and businesses. The combination of floodwaters and high winds makes a hurricane one of the most damaging types of severe weather. So here you can see these buildings are not supposed to be out in the middle of water. This is called flooding. Flooding causes very severe damage and can take a very long time to recede. Recede means to go back. The water needs to go back where it came from, and it just takes a lot of time for that to happen. So flooding can cause major damage. Also, hurricanes have sustained winds that can reach more than 250 kilometers per hour. These damaging storms destroy homes and businesses. They most often occur along the southern and eastern coasts of the United States. So you can see, just like a tornado, hurricanes have very strong winds, and so those winds can tear through neighborhoods and knock things down. It's not good. But hurricanes, again, occur right along here on the more like the southeastern part of the United States. It's not unheard of for them to affect the more northern or even the west coast, but mostly it's right in this general area. In 2017, Hurricane Harvey caused extensive damage to Houston, Texas, and the surrounding area. Most of the damage was caused by flooding. We're going to slide this over. So this is the area around Houston before Hurricane Harvey hit. So here you can see this is kind of a rural area. We've got some roads, we've got, it looks like some trees. But after the flooding occurs, as I'm dragging this across, think about where those roads were. You can't even see. You can see a couple dry patches of road, but most of the roads are completely covered in that muddy flood water. Even some of the trees are difficult to see where they were. Okay, so again, before the flooding, before the hurricane, and after. These bodies of water, you can't even tell where they would be because it's all just flood water. Hurricanes are not fun to deal with. So, which type of severe weather causes the most damage where you live? Now, you live in Nebraska. So, what types of severe weather did we say were fairly common in Nebraska? Not hurricanes, because we don't live on the coast. Not dust storms, because we get plenty of rain. Tornadoes cause the most damage. Tornadoes occur in the Midwest, which is where Nebraska is located. The high winds can cause damage to property. Thankfully, we have not had a bad storm in a while. Now, with this knowledge about severe weather, we're going to do a little bit of a lab today. Okay, we're going to pretend that we're in my home state, Kansas, where tornadoes are fairly more common and they're very, very dangerous. The thing about tornadoes is those strong winds can pick up objects and blow them around. It's called projectile. Like if you've ever heard of projectile vomit, it's when something comes straight out and with force, right? And so when tornadoes pick up objects and blow them around, they're projectiles. They have a lot of force behind them. So in this lab, we are pretending that we work for a company that designs materials for walls of homes. We have to decide which building materials can protect homes from tornado projectiles. Let's go ahead and take a look at our workbench here. If we need to design a model wall that can protect homes in a tornado, we have a few options to choose from. We have brick, plywood, concrete, and steel. So let's learn about these different building materials. First of all, brick. Bricks are made from clay and water. The bricks are dried until they are hard. Bricks are not easily damaged in a fire. They need to be attached together using a mixture of cement and sand called mortar to build a wall. Bricks sound pretty sturdy and they're not damaged in a fire. They're probably a pretty good choice for our building material. Let's look at plywood. Plywood is made by gluing together thin layers of wood. Plywood can be used to build inside or outside walls. Plywood is easy to transport, cut, and attach to other materials. It can be damaged by fire or water. Oh, if it can be damaged easily by fire or water, I wonder if it could be easily damaged by wind. Plywood might not be our good bet here for a good building material. Next up, we have concrete. Concrete is made from cement, sand, and gravel. It can be formed into pre-made blocks, or it can be mixed and poured into any shape and dried at a building site. Concrete can be very heavy depending on its shape. Ooh, that might be good. Heavy means the wind can't carry it, right? Concrete is not easily damaged in a fire. We've got one more material to study here, steel. Steel is made mostly from iron. It can be used to make walls and supports in buildings. Steel can be expensive and difficult to cut. Ooh, if it's difficult to cut, maybe the projectiles from the tornado won't damage it either. Interesting. Steel can be expensive and difficult to cut, so it is usually formed into pre-made shapes before being transported to a building site. Steel is not easily damaged in a fire. Oh, steel sounds kind of like the strongest to me. So what we need to do is we need to design the wall that's going to withstand the tornado wind forces. Now, something you need to know about tornadoes. Not all tornadoes are the same. They have different intensities. So like an F1 tornado, the F1 setting is going to launch the projectile at fairly low wind speeds, like those caused by F1 tornadoes. F1 tornadoes are still serious, but they're not nearly as serious as other types of tornadoes. The scale goes from F1, F2, F3, F4, and F5. F5 is the most severe tornado. The F5 setting is going to launch the projectile at very high wind speeds, such as those found in F5 tornadoes. So, which building material should we try first? I think we should try the brick. Brick is a fairly common material to use when building. So, how thick do you think that we should make our wall? The thickness of a material may affect whether or how much it is damaged by a tornado projectile. So, maybe a thicker wall will be able to withstand the projectiles better? Interesting thought. So let's say we have a brick wall. We don't want to make it too thick because then it's just going to look goofy. A wall that's that thick, maybe here would be our better bet. And we want it to be able to withstand pretty high wind speeds. So I want to test it against the F5 setting. Let's go ahead and test our wall and see how well it does. We're going to load our projectile onto our launcher. Select the F5 setting because we want to make sure it's nice and sturdy so it can withstand those strong projectile winds. Here we go. Oh no, my wall was not strong enough. Okay, the projectiles went right through our wall. So I think what we need to do is we need to go back to our design and try something different. We need to do some redesigning. So instead of doing a brick wall that has a thickness rating of 2, maybe we should try a concrete wall that has a thickness of 2, because again, you don't want your walls to be too thick because that's a lot of building material. It gets expensive and it kind of takes up the room in your house. Again, we want it to be able to withstand those high wind speeds, so I'm going to select an F5 tornado. Let's launch and see what happens. Oh no, it went straight through my wall again. Well, let's see if the steel does a better job. If we use a steel building material, again, they did say that steel could be really strong and it's hard to cut, so maybe those projectiles won't get through our steel. Let's try it. F5 force wind speeds, fingers crossed. Launch. Oh, it went through our steel even, but not quite as badly. So I'm going to reset this and think to myself, okay, it's gone through all of our sturdy building materials, which means it would completely obliterate this plywood that we decided wasn't a good building material. What could we change that would make the building materials hold up better to the projectiles? Well, we could build them with a greater thickness, right? So what if we built our brick wall with a thickness rating of 4 and we launched it in an F5 force setting? Oh my, that didn't seem to do hardly any damage at all. It barely left a scratch, right? Interesting. Okay, what would happen if we did a concrete wall of the same thickness, F5 force winds? Looks like it caused some damage, but not too much. Let's try our steel wall. Now the steel seemed to hold up the best to it to begin with, so what if we did a thickness rating of 3? What would happen? Thickness rating of 3, it was able to withstand it. It definitely left a dent. Let's try a thickness rating of 4 for the steel. Oh, didn't even leave a mark. I think the steel is our strongest material. I think that brick is also a good material to use. Concrete seemed to do all right. Now, just for giggles, let's see what would happen to this poor old plywood, even with the strongest thickness in F5 force winds. Here we go, guys. Oh my goodness, straight through, no competition for those F5 force winds. All right, so if we're those builders, our safety inspector wants us to design a poster that he can use to train home builders. So we're going to drag building material images onto the poster, and we're going to add text to inform home builders which materials are most effective in tornadoes. Well, we decided that brick was a good material to use, that concrete was good to use, cement, and then also some steel. Okay, definitely not this plywood. We can leave that guy off of it right there. All right, now let's give our buyers and our home builders some information. We could say that when we tested our building materials with F5 force winds, the brick and concrete walls held up nicely to projectiles with only a little damage. The steel wall model of a similar thickness didn't even get a scratch in the same situation. These are all good materials to build with to withstand tornadoes. Plywood is not a good option. All right, I am feeling good about this, you guys. Thanks so much for learning about building materials with me today in severe weather. Hope you learned something. Hope you're doing well. Take care, guys.